talked about the stages of grief. And I think the first one is denial. Well, you can't deny it when you see it. But you just look at it, you say, wow.
I felt like I was shell-shocked. I just, couldn't believe that we had just lived through that.
And then it gradually starts clearing up and you're starting to see all of the damage outside.
Our friends that lived upstairs, we knew they did not survive.
It looked like a bomb went off and just peeled everything away. It was just dirt and garbage and wood everywhere. Tile and you name it was just all over the place.
There wasn't an inch of this property where there wasn't trees, branches, debris. It looked like a bomb had gone off. It was the most devastating thing I've ever seen in my entire life when I walked out of this house. It was the most devastating thing.
Once you kind of start being able to see everything, you get that dreaded feeling of, wow, what just happened? What just hit us?
This is the true picture of catastrophic destruction, along with the utter devastation of your own home, whether that be an apartment, a trailer, a condo, or a sprawling estate. You must now be on the lookout for gas leaks, some of which are burning and the rest spewing toxic fumes into the air. House fires, broken glass and nails everywhere, electrical wires still live with current laying across your driveway. And perhaps one of the most insidious things to deal with, putrid sewage and animal corpse-filled black water gushing out of broken pipes everywhere. And yet, in spite of all of this, none of us give up. We have to find a way out, deal with what we are facing, take stock of what has happened, and make a proactive decision on how to move forward and rebuild.
It's 1 week after Hurricane Michael. Back at the apartment to see if we can salvage some pictures and such. Try to get into my place.
Then it was just like an eerie silence at home. And there's also an eerie silence on the outside of, now it's done, now what? What's next? We didn't know if my parents were alive for 36 hours after that. We actually had a high school friend's mom walk a couple blocks to deliver her cell phone that had signals. So I was able to hear my dad's voice after about 36 hours and was like...
And I just felt total, oh my gosh, we survived this. How did, and we all just hugged and...
You're gonna be shell-shocked. You've just been through an incredibly traumatic 12 hours or more. The storm's a long thing, and literally wondering, are you gonna survive this thing, It's very stressful for many hours.
In a disaster, you will go through a traumatic incident. And so most people will have some degree of post-trauma. Not just for the people who are in it, but also for the people who are away from it, wondering if their loved ones are okay.
And I loaded up the dogs and my backpack, hopped in the truck, and I literally couldn't get out. Like I was blocked in everywhere.
We couldn't get out anywhere. This whole street was just completely covered in trees and limbs.
After the storm was over, because it was an early season storm, the weather warmed up afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
The snow started to melt. Then we had to worry about flooding.
All the pumps, no electricity, so the pumps weren't working. You had to go out to the areas furthest out west of where the hurricane landed, where they had power, and getting these massive lines. Mm-hmm. You'd wait hours just to get, 15, 20 gallons of fuel, which our generators would last 5 gallons a night.
All for gas. This gas line is almost 2 miles long. Wow.
after Maryland in '95 and after Irma Maria, we went 3 months without grid electricity. So having a generator is a good thing. These are just small little 2,000 watt generators. They are more than enough to run your refrigerator or freezer.
I went to my big store and there were no generators. And I asked the guy working there what happened. And he said, well, FEMA came this morning and took them all to New York.
I was working here at the tree service, and after Katrina hit, we waited a couple days and headed down. We were getting stopped by police and asking us to go over here and try to cut this other police officer out because, you know, her car and everything she had was just blocked in by trees.
The police were non-existent. They were all in the same boat I was in. Their houses were messed up. They were not worried about going to work. They were worried about their families. And so there was no law enforcement for a week.
In the aftermath of disaster, there's a certain degree of chaos that's unavoidable. We don't like using the words chaos in public information as it relates to disasters, but the reality is that there's a lot of chaos.
I was in New Orleans for a week. And we went out and started clearing. The stores were trashed. Helicopters were insane there. There's like 7 in the air at all times. And when we got there, one of the soldiers at the Superdome told us, oh, we can't fly at night because the bastards on the bridges are shooting at us. They were taking so much fire they couldn't fly at night.
Who's shooting?
People trapped on overpasses. People just got stuck there. People were living on overpasses for days and days, and they see these helicopters going around and they just start shooting at them out of frustration.
We did have a mission where we protected property. I was actually given ammo for force protection. Like, I wasn't out there after looters, I was out there to protect the medics and our equipment.
The stores got hit first, and then it moved into the neighborhoods, and people's houses were getting looted. So that's something you have to take into consideration. Are you able to deal with that?
This also speaks to the importance of investments in community. Is that areas where you tend to see looting, areas where you tend to see, these are areas that are sort of denied a lot of opportunities day to day, that are already at a breaking point. And I'm not trying to victim blame here. I want to be really clear about that. But this is why investments in social capital and investments in social cohesion are so important. These things that may seem unrelated from a disaster, when you have high crime rates, generations of poverty, lack of opportunity for jobs, how do you think that's going to play out in a disaster? How do you think that's going to play out with additional stressors on it?
And you talk about the haves and the have-nots. The haves can live on the coast and they can rebuild. The have-nots might live in proximity and they're kind of left standing with no resources or nowhere to go.
We need to have these investments in community. This sort of on the approach with the shotgun, this, you loot, we shoot, it erodes that. That sort of approach to preparedness erodes cohesion. And no matter how much you prepare in your own personal security, it's never going to match the benefit that you have from community cohesion, from social capital, from building social networks, and that'll always pay off in the long run.
The Mad Max scenario is that everybody's going to turn on everybody else. First of all, that's not going to happen. It almost never happens. And also, barring a global thermonuclear war, all disasters are going to be temporary. And so people are going to have long memories. When the pandemic hit, the first thing I did was talk to my neighbors and say, listen, let's all keep in touch and see what we all have and pool our resources.
When something happens like that, then you've got to take care of yourself, and then there's also friends and family that can't go out and get things. So you got to think about supplying what their needs are. It has taught us to communicate with friends and family a lot more. I know I've reached out to a lot of people that maybe I haven't talked to in a while. Just check in. How you doing? You okay? Need anything? I'm here for you.
You see more and more, a lot of folks don't know their neighbors. A lot of people don't know who lives in the apartment building on the floor above them, or the little old lady down the street that might need help or might need her driveway shoveled during a snowstorm. Knowing your community and knowing your neighbors, that's very important. And knowing the individuals in your neighborhood that might need additional assistance.
Investing in your community is the best survival skill you can have.
A strong community approach will always be the best answer. Now, often, the timeline of assistance plays out something like this. Local groups will get involved. Churches, Samaritan's Purse, Salvation Army. Let's face it, they've been through the same things you have. Local businesses, such as restaurants, may feed an entire neighborhood out of the goodness of their hearts. National corporations may get involved. Chain restaurants providing food, or, for example, Tide Detergent providing free laundry services. Eventually, out-of-state assistance may show up as well. Team Rubicon, for example, consisting primarily of military veteran volunteers, can provide everything from medical aid to tree removal service. And beside them will likely be the National Guard's women and men. FEMA and other federal agencies may come in as well, but often only if your area has been declared a disaster. Lastly, it's your own insurance company, if you have one. Now, Sean and Lily, who have appeared in this film, made a very strong point for the use of a public defender. They operate on commission. They only receive money if you do. Look at it this way. You're going to need assistance, and your insurance company may need convincing. They assure me it's well worth the fee. Some organizations, such as Team Rubicon, operate on a very holistic level. Others specialize, such as Shelterbox. They know that their experience and expertise lies in providing shelter. They may show up with an entire shelter kit for you. Barbecue Relief has a very unique mandate of bringing you fresh, hot, pulled pork on a bun. Now, can you imagine, after eating 5 days of emergency dry rations, somebody showing up with a fresh, hot, pulled pork on a bun? And yes, they have vegetarian options.
To me, it's really easy. I mean, the frontline workers are the ones that have been giving every day. They've been out there, they've put themselves out in front of this. And for us, not to celebrate them, not to give back to them, I think would be doing a disservice to that. And so between them and the first responders that are out there every day, I think they're the frontline workers that we have to celebrate.
Thank you, Operation Barbecue Relief. Thank you very much. Yay!
Necklace. The charm is still in one
Oh,
piece.
that is neat.
Your chain.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll keep looking.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, that was nice.
Wasn't that nice? It's always a nice surprise. So I knew about Samaritan's Purse, and then I saw them operating here, and I got their phone number and called them. And I mean, talk about a God thing. They're here, and the ASMAT people are going to be right here after them. So this is our chance to be able to get things. When the environmental people go, they're not going to be looking for little treasures and things like that. They're just clearing.
The National Guard was an integral part. They were there putting water at the end of the driveway, asking you if you needed food, hygiene products, whatever you needed.
City and county emergency services was the forefront. There were people out there that had snow plows on the fronts of their truck. Construction companies, they'd come in with their bucket loaders and their front end loaders, and they would help. And then Red Cross. They provided food, clothing for people who, they provided shelter for people who were able to get out of their homes but didn't have any place to go.
A lot of folks don't even understand that, their local community has Office of Emergency Management, for example. A lot of folks, you think about first responders, you think police, fire, EMS, not understanding that there's other layers in public safety, emergency management, for example, that actually do a lot within the community that folks aren't aware of.
If you've got the damaged apartment or you've got a damaged dwelling and you can't really live in that damaged dwelling, contact FEMA at 1-800-621-FEMA to apply for assistance. It is important to note that there must be a presidentially declared disaster in order for FEMA to assist. We don't go to every disaster because sometimes the disasters are things that the state or the local or the tribe or the territory is able to handle themselves.
Community emergency response team. In some areas, it is an actual team that maybe has a monthly meeting and kind of like a search and rescue, basically first on scene responders. So it's not a first responder like a police or fire, but it's if you're there first, here's the things that you can do to help somebody else and here's what you can do safely to help somebody else.
The local communities, there was a couple of restaurants that opened up and was handing out free food. There's a gentleman here who always tries to help. He was driving around making sure people had food. And there was a couple of actual semi-truckers who were coming in. They would park at the Callaway beside them and hand out food, help out with anything that they could. Tide Pods was offering to wash your clothes.
That was set up immediately, and a phenomenal number of volunteers willing to listen, to do whatever you needed them to do.
I was blown away by the community that we had. Like, that left a big impact on me. Like, I never seen anything like that since I was in the Marine Corps.
The gratitude I have towards everyone who helped us, I cannot thank them enough.
It's overwhelming gratitude and appreciation, and I'm not sure how we're going to give back yet, but we will.
If it seems like I've left you with more questions than answers, then I've done my job. Your job now is to ask the questions. What kind of disasters occur where I live? What supplies do I need and in what quantity? How do I deal with my senior parents or people with access needs such as wheelchairs? What do I do about my children, my pets, my vehicle, my property? Where's the safest place in my apartment or house or dwelling if I can't evacuate? What are the safest actions to take in my neighborhood if a disaster occurs that I can't predict, such as an earthquake? What local organizations can I turn to as resources? Churches, businesses, friends, family? Who do I look for rescue? And finally, what do I do after I'm safe? I will include for you with this film online resources and written information, but you already have the internet and government agencies to help you do your research. So I'd like to leave you with an option. You can begin now and get prepared for the next disaster. Or don't, and take your chances. I'm Les Stroud.